Yo, what's going on, Blackish fam? I hope all is well in your corner of the world. Man, getting better. I was a little bit under the weather, but really want to get into this Pizza Alley. I started listening to it, and I had some audio issues, but really excited to get back at it. I'm gonna have a little I know this album he talks about spirituality and shit. So I was like, let me get on your level, Aesop. I don't know where you are, but let's check this out. I'm excited, man. I feel like I slept on Aesop for so long. I only heard we did Mystery Fish a few weeks back. That was the first Aesop rock I did, and I'm like, man, that's some of the hardest stuff that I've ever had to break down, which I love. I love the mystery, the understanding the references, the breakdowns. We do really in depth breakdowns on the station. Like it could be an hour long, 2 hours long. And with someone like Aesop Rock, man, there's so many different meanings, right? It's very abstract. So it's like looking at a wonderful painting. You can appreciate the painting in different ways, but if you ask 10 different people, their life experience is going to influence the way they interpret certain things. So we might have the same understand the vocabulary, but maybe we don't understand the context. Maybe we don't understand his wordplay, and I just think that's so exciting. But I heard Kirby, and then I was like, wow, that's probably the most complex song about a cat. And then I was like, man, that song about a cat is probably more lyrical than most dudes' albums, right? So I started diving in. We did Daylight. We recently did, somebody asked us to do the Garbology album. So I've done Wolf Piss as well as Jazz Hands. And I'm starting to understand a little bit more about who he is as a person. And man, it's exciting. I feel kind of it's 2022 and I'm just learning about this man. I honestly fell off with hip hop, man. I just was so irritated with lame commercial hip hop that I just gave it up for a while. I started getting into oldies and jazz, and now it really to hear someone like Aesop Rock, it's like in the communities that I've seen online, it's like yo, I feel like I could vibe with someone, and that's they have complex intellectual conversations about real shit going on in the world, and to have a community and know that there's artists out there that are like that is awesome. So without further ado, we're going to get right into Pizza Alley. Uh, I don't know what this is about. Pizza Alley. I was looking at the time. It's recent. Probably one of the more recent songs that we've done from Aesop Rock, but this was right around the presidential election. So immediately I thought of Pizzagate, right? Where is he in the world? Pizza Alley, like I think, an alley you call, like in the Chicago area, we got areas where there's food trucks and things like that. So maybe it's, maybe there's great pizza here. Maybe he's, who knows? Let's check it out.
Charlie, Charlie, you awake?
No.
How can you sleep? I'm freaking out.
I wonder if this is a continuation from another song, or another video, because I don't, it says later that night. How do I know who these kids are?
Charlie,
Charlie.
Charlie, you awake?
No.
How can you sleep? I'm freaking out.
We'll figure it out in the morning.
You saw the same things I did. That book is something crazy. And bucket?
Shh.
And what about the bunny?
See, now that's different. Now when we explore his songs, they can be extremely complex, but there's a lot of symbolism, right? When I see a bunny, in many cultures, a bunny represents fear, but it can be associated with longevity, fertility, good luck, right? Like a bunny's, I don't want to say their leg, but a bunny's paw, right? Creativity. But it's very different. Let's look and see what the bunny's doing. I shouldn't say bunny like I'm a 5 year old, right? But it's a rabbit. But is he? They're obviously having something. I don't know if the book. It wasn't. It doesn't sound like they're talking about a Bible. But look at what's happening here. It looks There's like a mouth. I could see eyes there. It's almost on her. Is it a mask? What's the bunny doing? The bunny was lit. Is he going down a rabbit hole? Right. That could be, somebody. It could be a metaphor for, right, somebody going into a different kind of surreal. Think of Alice in Wonderland, right? Let's let it ride. Fuck it.
Book is something crazy.
Out in the morning.
You saw the same things I did. That book is something crazy. And bucket? And what about the bunny?
Fuck it.
Claire,
The dog ate the bunny.
And what about the bunny?
Right there. Right? The bunny's bleeding out. The dog ate the bunny.
Claire, yes, I'm freaked out, but I'm tired. Am I letting you sleep in my room?
Yes.
Okay, so they looked at a book. They looked at something, right? It was a book that she's obviously having nightmares, or she's worried about having nightmares, so she's sleeping in his room. Looks like he's on the floor. She's got the bed, maybe a little sister.
I'm tired. Am I letting you sleep in my room?
Yes.
In my bed, even?
Yes.
Then shut up and go to sleep.
Definitely a little sister.
Charlie,
What?
I miss Dad.
Brother, sister.
I know you do. Go to sleep.
So they're sleeping. Is she gonna have a nightmare?
I know you do.
Do they doze off? It looked like something was smoking, like incense in the background. Right there. What's that? A typewriter or something? A bread box, maybe. A desk, a credenza, right? Peru. Dear Claire. And did they say, was it, they just said his name was Charlie. Was her name Claire? Because he's from Portland, Oregon, isn't he? I know he's originally from New York, but I believe he lives there now. It says, Dear Claire, I miss you so much. I've been working here, getting closer to what I've been searching for. I think I found the path to the spirit world. I just need to head down the river to investigate. Love, Dad. So that's what happened to Dad. Now, is he dead? Does he have kids? Are these his kids? I don't really know, I guess. Well, he's in Lima, Peru. Now, that's a different story right there. Lima, Peru, there's only a few reasons you go to Peru, right? Outside of family. For most people, it's probably prostitution or drugs, right? There's a drug market there, but they also have these, the Inca are from that area, right? There's always, if you listen to ancient alien theorists or like Ancient Aliens, the show on history.com, right? History TV. There's a cosmic energy that's concentrated around Lima or Peru in general, right? You have very questionable areas there, like Machu Picchu and Lake Titicaca, right? Machu Picchu, keep in mind, there's not a lot of information on the Incas that really go into detail on how they moved and made these massive blocks. They were excellent with stone, but we don't really know how they moved large stones and were able to carve them. But Machu Picchu is also an observatory. Something happens when we get the two equinoxes during the year. There's a period in time where the sun is directly over the stone, and there's absolutely no shadow. It's just crazy to think that people had the ability to think like that when we would normally think of these people as ignorant or simple people. But most of the civilizations, the Inca civilizations, they were destroyed right after the Spanish conquest. But Machu Picchu was in a hidden location, which is what makes it so valuable, right? It is very well preserved. There's a lot of archaeology there. But we also have things like Lake Titicaca, like these really spiritual places with a really troubling history.
Keep it classy, Kita Pizza Alley, weaving traffic in an overheating taxi in Lima. Tickets to liberate the center, pitch surrender to a witch.
Now it's funny that he says liberate, right? Because they have most people that know about the history of Peru, they have the liberating expedition of Peru, right? This is when the independence of the Peruvian state. This was in 1821. I don't know if he wanted to reference that. I just thought it was interesting that he said liberate. Immediately makes you think he's going into the history or talking about something deeper in Peru.
Keep it classy, Kita Pizza Alley, weaving traffic in an overheating taxi in Lima. Tickets to liberate the center, pitch surrender to a witch doctor pouring amphibians out the blender.
Ooh, to a witch doctor pouring amphibians out the blender. There's a lot of witch doctors out that way, and that's what I was actually getting at when you talk about the drugs. It's not like going to Mexico or so and getting some cheap cocaine or cheap weed, right? When you talk about South America, there's a lot of witch doctors where when you getting high is a completely different experience, right? There's drinks, there's leaves, there's things that are natural to that environment that really can make you trip, almost like you were on some very complex drugs, right? So when he says witch doctors, those are considered benders of will, right? They can control people that they consider themselves more superior to. So a witch doctor, they're not just a spiritual master, but they do what's called alchemy, right? And it's connected to the spirit world. So it's the ability to use nature. It's something. The science that they use is what's called juju. You ever hear somebody like, "Oh man, that motherfucker brings bad juju. Fuck him. He's not coming in my house," right? When you talk about juju, that's what it comes from, right? A witch doctor.
Center pitch surrender to a witch doctor pouring amphibians out the blender underneath the glowing purple Christ. Perfect surf curl up and die. Cobblestone alone, a master class in open world design.
Yeah, cobblestone. The way that they manipulated bricks, right? The Incas used freeform rocks, and they put mortar in between, and they would make houses. They would make forts, and these are areas that are prone to earthquakes, right? So they had to build these structures that had a lean that would allow for the manipulation that would happen during an earthquake. So, this is complex. These are more intellectual people, right? And I want to look here at the video. That's dude David, right, from Roseanne, or dude from, goddamn, what is the show? He's married to Blossom, right? Oh, but on Roseanne, he used to date Becky.
Pitch surrender to a witch doctor pouring amphibians out the blender underneath the glowing purple Christ. Perfect surf curl up and die. Cobblestone alone, a master class in open world design. I came from the wasteland in featherlight trail pants. Fuchi trail, Inca trail mailman.
Ooh. Yeah, see, he referenced the Inca there. But he said, I came from the wasteland, the USA, right? We're the wasteland, the States. He said, I came from the wasteland, he said something about his pants. Featherlight trail pants, right? He's saying, I'm a tourist, right? I got these specialized trail pants on. I'm the city boy, right? He said, Fuchi off the ant trail.
Class in open world design. I came from the wasteland in featherlight trail pants. Fuji off the ant trail, Inca trail mailman.
Fuji, that could be, there's a flower that's specific to South America, keep in mind the altitude of where they are, right? So there's a difference in the things that grow there. But Fuchi, I'm mixed. My mom is black, my dad is Mexican, even though I didn't really know my dad's side too well. Fuchi is something in Spanish. It normally means something that's potent, garbage or so. People say it's like yuck, right? Blah. That's another way of saying Fuchi, which would make me think of that only because he's talking about an ant trail. An ant trail is something that they use a scent to guide them, right? But this is obviously him here. He's at New Clues to Peruvian Mythical Gateway. There's a lot in Peru, a lot of ancient alien theorists would suggest that there's an alien, um, uh, there's some origins there where the Inca people, they say they have a deity that created them that came from the sky and fell into the lake in Lake Titicaca. And supposedly he gave the king this metal disc. And this metal disc was some sort of communication tool where he could communicate with the gods, supposedly. And a really interesting thing is actually at Machu Picchu, there's an area where they've used modern day equipment and they can sense that there's gold and steel in this cavity there. But they're not allowed to dig on that site. A lot of people think this might be that tool of some sort that might have been alien or some sort of foreign technology. But it's funny that he's talking about mythical gateways, because when I think of that and I think of South America, I normally, yeah, you might think of the Inca civilization. They're not the only civilization that lived in that area over time. But I also think about the witchcraft and what he might be talking about. A lot of these gateways, they're what you would call enlightenment. It's not a physical gateway, but it's a place that you go spiritually that can supposedly change the way that you look at the rest of your life. That's how powerful these gateways are. They're normally induced by drugs or things that are specific to that region. And that's actually why a lot of people go there outside of prostitution or family, right? And what's with he's looking for that, he's on a quest, right? It looks like he has a clue and he's following these clues. That looks like it could be an eye because it looks like there's eyelashes, but that can also mean like somebody who's startled or awakened. But it looks like this is definitely an eye. It looks like the symbol that Moana was going to go put her rock back into Mother Nature, right?
Masterclass in open world design. I came from the wasteland in featherlight trail pants. Fuchi off the ant trail. Inca trail mailman. Failed in every hemisphere.
Yeah, see, Inca Trail mailman. There's Lake Titicaca, which we talked about. It's the name. It's actually called the birthplace of the Incas, right? The first Inca king was born at Lake Titicaca. At least that's how you start talking about mythology, and they say the gods created a wife for him, and they began a tribe that became the Inca Empire. But Lake Titicaca, again, is the birthplace of the Incas. And they have a myth about their god coming out of the lake and creating the sun, the stars, and the first people. There's a lot that goes into it. But again, it's that gold disc that they think was some sort of communication. Again, this is from ancient alien theorists.
Show me the ambrosia, maybe go ant trail. Inca trail mailman, failed in every hemisphere. Show me the ambrosia, maybe the ant trail. Inca trail mailman, failed in every hemisphere. Show me the ambrosia, maybe ghost into the coca leaf and
yeah, he's talking about the spirit world here. But listen to what he said. He said, filled in every hemisphere, right? We're talking about there's plants that only grow in these regions because of the altitude. And he says, show me the ambrosia. Right, the ambrosia. There's another way to say ragweed. There's a very technical name that ambrosia is a part of, but ragweed is what you might think of when you hear of somebody having the sniffles or having signs of being allergic to something. There's like a high ragweed count or mold count or mildew count, right? But there's also a lot of medicinal benefits. Early Native American healers, they used ragweed. It was like an astringent, antiseptic, right? So this is something that was topical, and I wonder if that's what he's getting to here.
holy heliconia. We're shaman up to zombify undocumented expats. High and writing ayahuasca.
What?
We're shaman up to zombie pants. Fuji off the ant trail. Inca trail mailman, failed in every hemisphere.
Show me the ambrosia.
Ghost into the coca leaf and holy heliconia.
Yeah, he's definitely talking about drugs here, because listen to what he said. Maybe ghost into the coca leaf and holy heliconia. Now, heliconia, it's actually Greek. Heliconia is named after a Greek mountain. It's Helicon. it's home of the muses, right? The goddesses of art and science. If you study Greek mythology, and we know he knows about Greek mythology because he references Icarus, right? We went over that in one of his other breakdowns. But heliconia, it's the symbolism. The symbolism is it keeps you young, it keeps you beautiful. There's actually a lot of stories that go. He says holy heliconia, but he also talks about the ghost in the cocoa leaf. He could be talking about the cocoa goddess. Cocoa goddess, that's over the course of thousands of years, people develop, it's more or less a relationship with the cocoa leaf. And the cocoa goddess represents, she supposedly would tempt all of the men in the Inca tribe. She was this beautiful woman. And again, we refer back to ancient alien theorists because the story goes that she's this beautiful woman, but she's unusual. She has green skin and she has very woolly hair. And they say the eyes the color of almonds. But supposedly she could seduce anybody. And she moved from place to place and people were just like overwhelmed with her beauty. And this, of course, went to the powers that be. Because these men were like losing their mind. They were becoming obsessed with her. And the Inca emperor, he went to meet her and he said that she needs to be killed. And supposedly they kill her and they scatter her body. And this is what basically it turned into the cocoa plant where they scattered her body. And I know it sounds it sounds crazy, but some people say that's why you can't resist the cocoa leaf. The things that it does to you, you're always going to be wanting more, just like they craved for her. So it sounds like a way of them explaining addiction.
Show me the ambrosia, maybe ghost into the coca leaf and holy heliconia. We're shaman up to zombify.
And just so you know, people still use that, right? Well, in the Inca Empire, people would chew the leaves. They would chew the cocoa leaves, and they say that it balances them, right? It says that it soothes their grief. And again, it sounds like these people are dealing with what we would call drugs. But again, that's what he's talking about.
Documented expats, high and writing ayahuasca, we're shaman up to zombify undocumented.
Yeah, so it sounds like he's definitely talking about getting possibly severely fucked up, right? He's talking about, when you're talking about we're shaman, when you're using shaman, he said we're shaman out to zombify undocumented expats, right? Expats are a person who live outside, expatriate, right? Someone who lives outside of the country that they're from. So when he's saying they're a shaman out to zombify, they're fucking them up. They're normally, a shaman is used when you're using these, it could be drinks, it could be drugs, but they're normally overseeing your experience because it can get fucked up. When you're talking about doing these hallucinogenic drugs and shit, you could be throwing up, you could be shitting on yourself, and it's considered part of the cleansing. But as you can imagine, the reaction could be very different amongst different people, which is just crazy if he's going to go through with this shit. And actually, now that I think about it, Pizza Alley, when you talk about different parts of the world, they have strips, right? Like the Las Vegas strip, just like in Chicago. If you were to visit Chicago and you wanted the downtown experience of bars and clubs and you were to look that up on a computer, they might have you go to the Division and Rush district, right? Or River North district, or, depending on what your interests were. Well, the Division and Rush Street is like a collection of bars and restaurants, so you can kind of bar hop and all party. A lot of tourists might go there after spending the day in Navy Pier, right? But Pizza Alley is this area in Lima, Peru, where they do have a collection of restaurants there that's known for their good pizza. But because it's a heavy tourist spot, there's also a ton of prostitution, which I would guess that there's a lot of pickpocketers and a lot of people selling pictures and really touristy things. But that's Pizza Alley. Pizza Alley is also an area where you can go if you want one of these experiences with drugs. Because a lot of people know that there's tourists there. And what do you go to Lima, Peru for? He is getting high as fuck. Listen to what he referenced. He said getting high and writing ayahuasca letters back to Melmac. A lot of you are probably dating yourself if you're thinking of Melmac like Tupperware, right? No, Melmac, he's high as hell. Melmac is just like Earth, but it has two moons, right? It has green skies and purple grass. It orbited a purple sun. This is the home of Alf. How many of you remember back in the day, Small Wonder, Harry and the Hendersons, and places called the show Alf? It was a series about this little dude, a little brown anteater looking dude. He came from Melmac, which was very much like Earth, and he had this horrible thing happen, and he was guided towards Earth, and this family took him in, and he used to eat cats. That's not a message in our metaphor or anything, but he would eat, literally eat cats. But he was from the planet Melmac. That's where if he's writing letters to Melmac, you are high as fuck. But he's talking about high on another level. He's talking about ayahuasca. That's some next level shit, right? That's something that's specific to South America, I think, but it's a brew. It's more ceremonial or spiritual, at least it was to the Incas or the indigenous people. But nowadays, it's become more social. Ayahuasca, it's a way to open your mind and get rid of trauma, and it takes you through a journey. A lot of people claim that once you do this journey, the rest of your life you live different because of what you've experienced. Like it's opened you up to something more. But if you do ayahuasca, it's actually kind of promoted because, again, what are you going to Lima, Peru for, right? You're going there for prostitution. You're going there for drugs. You're going there for experiences like this. So they have shaman that would oversee you doing a drug like this because, again, you're talking about being in like an altered state of consciousness. It's almost like being schizophrenic for hours. Like you honestly could be a danger to yourself. To do something like that, you're normally Peru, Costa Rica, right, Brazil. They actually have retreats that are based around doing ayahuasca. But again, you should do it not just with a shaman, but you should do it with medical personnel with you. They normally say you should you shouldn't have sex. You shouldn't use caffeine, drugs, alcohol. They want you to purify your body during this process. Though it's supposed to get rid of all these toxins. And it's normally done at night. And again, it can get really effed up. You're talking about vomiting, diarrhea, hallucinations. And you never know. The thing about ayahuasca is it affects you differently. So every trip that you do is completely different. And it can be a good trip. It could be a bad trip. But there's some really interesting stuff. When I first started studying ayahuasca, there's actually some research that shows that you can regain connectivity with like brain tissue. And I thought that was really interesting because it's like stimulating parts of your brain that you either haven't used in a while, or so people calling it an enlightenment. There could be some truth to that, but there's not a lot of research, at least U.S.-based research, that I access that would allow me to believe that it's safe. And but it's something that's become more recreational. And it sounds like he went there and then had this trip. I'm really excited to hear more about it.
Inca trail mailman, building every hemisphere. Show me the ambrosia, maybe ghost into the coca leaf and holy heliconia. We're shaman up to zombify undocumented expats.
Yeah.
High and writing ayahuasca letters back to Melmac. Dear friends, send help yesterday.
Send help yesterday. That's like, I don't know, he could either be saying like, yo, I'm in desperate need of help. Like, yo, when do you need it? Man, they needed that shit yesterday, like ASAP. But he could just be fucked up. Like, yo, send help last Tuesday. And you're like, what? You're right. He could be just in that state.
Dear friends, send help yesterday. Yours true, Condor, Poma Serpiente. Talk rap.
Now, that's, he said yours true, almost like he's signing off on a letter. But listen to what he said. He said the Condor, Puma, and then like what you would call snake, right?
Send help yesterday. Yours true, condor, poma serpiente. Talk
Yeah, serpent. And what is it? That represents something, especially to people out there. And you could tell, look, he's like, I got a clue, right? He's holding up what he's looking for. The condor, the puma, and the snake, they're symbolic of the different 3 stages of life, right? Of the Inca life. So the condor would represent the heavens. The puma is the middle world or earth, right? And the snake represents the underworld. And you'll see when you start talking about ancient ruins, Inca ruins, which it looks like he highlighted here. They were showing it a second ago. But when you talk about the ruins, you'll normally see, like for instance, we talked about Machu Picchu. You can visit the Temple of the Condor there. And it's actually, it's carved to look like there's a condor.
Writing ayahuasca letters back to Melmac. Dear friends, send help yesterday. Yours true, condor, poma serpiente.
Yeah, and the condor, remember, this is a sacred bird for the Incas. They believe that it communicated with the upper world.
Friends, send help yesterday. Yours true, condor, poma serpiente.
Yeah, the cougar is different too. The cougar is a symbol of strength, right? Strength, wisdom, intelligence. That's the world of the living, right? It's patience, it's strength.
Yesterday, yours true, condor, poma serpiente. Talk rap albums over alpaca medallions with metalheads who traffic magic flowers from the mountains to the houses that are holy. A token of that sacred valley balance and serpiente. Talk rap albums over alpaca medallions with metalheads who traffic magic flowers from the
He's saying a lot there. He said alpaca. Now there's different meanings there. Like I think he's talking about. He said alpaca medallions, right?
friends. Send help yesterday. Yours true, condor, poma serpiente. Talk rap albums over alpaca medallions with
Yeah. Alpacas to them were really important animals. Like you talk about the Inca civilization. This animal's used in like religious sacrifices to gods, right? But they didn't waste any part of it. I mean, the Incas actually used to eat raw alpaca, which sounds just horrible and disgusting. But they took the bones, they had leather, they took fat. I mean, they made musical instruments, they made medicines, they made shoes. But I don't think he's actually talking about the alpaca. I think he's talking about what they call, he's talking about like the reference point would be jewelry. This is jewelry that has like that gray metallic finish, right? It's not shiny like sterling silver, but it's metal, right? It's copper, zinc, it's nickel. I believe that's what he's talking about.
magic flowers from the mountains to the houses that are holy. Medallions with metalhead door, poma serpiente. Talk rap albums over alpaca medallions with metalheads who traffic magic flowers from the mountains.
He said with metalheads who traffic magic flowers from the mountains, right? Metalheads are people that like heavy metal music. If they're trafficking magic flowers from the mountains, these are dudes that are higher end dealing drugs, right? Really powerful drugs at that.
Rap albums over alpaca medallions with metalheads who traffic magic flowers
From the mountain.
to the houses that are holy.
See, it's funny because he said heavy metals. He said with metalheads, right? But then he says houses of the holy. Houses of the Holy, that's a Led Zeppelin song, right? Houses of the Holy, it means that these are the venues that Zeppelin played. The song is supposed to be about the spiritual feel that you get at concerts. So again, he's going into, he's using these drugs not just to get high. I think he's going into, you're getting into the shit, which could mean, remember the rabbit we saw in the beginning, the little girl sleeping. They read a book, right? They're scared about the contents in the book, and it sounds like she's about to get into a nightmare. But what I don't know is who is this guy? The dude from Roseanne, right? David, who's here. He's like the Carmen Sandiego, the motherfucking Duck Tracy, right? This guy hunting because it'd be the little girl who was sleeping, right? So is she sleeping, envisioning herself as him, or is she dreaming and is this taking place somewhere? Right? funny it says omega fatty acids because if you think of Peru, you also think of superfoods. There's things that grow specifically at special altitudes that are superfoods, right? They don't expel omega fatty acids. They have different, they do things different chemically. Yeah, he's tripping. He's high too. He said the strays, right? A lot of people don't realize when you go to some of these places like Peru, there's mad dogs on the streets, right? I've never been to Peru, but when I went to Puerto Rico, I was surprised that there's just mad big dogs around, right? You have to just understand that these dogs or stray dogs aren't going to hurt you, but a lot of people, they're not taking part in sterilization programs, right? So these dogs, they get put out. They're like kind of wild dogs. But there is some history. Again, when you talk about Peru, you have to talk about the Incas. And there's a Peruvian Inca orchid dog that supposedly has superpowers, right? They thought this dog had supernatural powers and would help you see spirits. But the dog was actually a specific species, like a breed called Varingo. But when the Spanish invaded Peru, that was pretty much the end to this type of dog. They're extremely endangered, but a lot of people say that they're considered very mystical, very special. It's also, I believe, the national pet out there. They're high. The dogs look happy. Paddington bear is that little stupid marmalade bear that has a hat like me. And waders are what you would wear in like a cranberry bog. If you're like wading through a bog and you don't want to get all wet and you don't want to come in contact with the elements. So a bear wearing waders. So he's high as fuck, right? Let's the answer to Paddington bear and waders. It's amazers. Ooh, I grew up writing riddles under bridges in New York. Oh, Billy Goat's gruff, right? But yo, he is from New York, right? Ooh, a highwayman. A highwayman is a thief who robs travelers on the road, right? And there is a such thing as a horse whisperer. Back in the day, that these are people that you would probably call a horse trainer now, but they just basically try to get eye to eye with the horse, understand the psychology of the horse, right? They're called horse whisperers, like a dog whisperer. Under bridges in New York. Ooh. He's talking about extremes, right? And look, it looks like he's finding something. But he said from dying on the vine to it's alive and indivisible. Those are, again, it's two opposite sides of the spectrum, right? Dying on the vine, that's like you're failing at a very early stage, right? Nothing came to fruition. You might have a really ambitious plan, but it died on the vine. It died too early. But it's alive and indivisible means it's unable to be divided, right? It's unable to be separated. It's so strong and alive. So it sounds like he's going through intense mood swings, right? It sounds like he's high and there's a good trip and a bad trip and there's ups and downs, but he's on extreme emotions right now. What ship, what shore? I grew up writing riddles under bridges in New York. Now I travel like a highway. Looks sick. Look at that. You're about to fall, bro. Going in the hole, bro. Ooh, a bindle full of crystal skulls. A bindle is like what you would see a hobo have, right? When you dress like me and you ran away and you're going on the train, right? You got a big stick with a bindle. It almost looks like a stork's what they're carrying, right? It's like a little bundle, if you would. Crystal skulls, that's really interesting because crystal skulls have been in like pop culture, like sci-fi series, novels, video games, right? Indiana Jones and the crystal skulls. things like that. You might hear about them in video games. Supposedly, we don't have the technology today to replicate a crystal skull and as smooth and as perfect as they are. And there's crystal skulls that have been found in different locations all around the world. Supposedly, when the light hits them, it comes out a different way. We still don't really understand what they do. Supposedly, when you have 7 or 9 that are scattered all across the world and you put them in one place, it's meant to make something happen. But this is even, the legends go beyond Indiana Jones.
It's alive and indivisible to how to get this far without a bindle full of crystal skulls. Cozy local woven goods, beaded shit for people you have never met or spoken to, but know they'll need to hold Peru. Throw a couple logs on a fire, there's a chimney in San Blas where you could hear baby dayliner bouncing softly off.
He said San Blas. That's the San Blas Islands. That's Panama, right? The San Blas Islands of Panama. So he's saying if there's a chimney in San Blas where you can hear Baby Dayliner is a singer in New York City. So maybe he's in now the San Blas Islands bumping some New York shit, right? He's saying, there's somewhere in the world where you can hear it. You can hear Baby Dayliner. He's seeing the connections, right? Look, where's he got to go? He's got to go to the top of the mountain here. That's interesting. He's talking about, he said, a strange hill to die on, and then never let me die on a regular hill. Never let me die on a regular hill. Pain all mine to the bygones. Find him a strange hill to die on. See, that's interesting here. Now, in war, right, you got to think historically, taking a hill was important, right? There's a lot of battles that have been with hills because of your position. So we get terms that say, like, choose the hill you want to die on is a metaphor for fighting somebody to the death for something, making sure it's worth it. It's almost like saying, choose your battles, right? Choose your battles, like choose the hill you want to die on. But this is interesting because, he talked about amphibians or reptiles in the blender, and we talked about witchcraft. But you would never, if you were somewhere in South America, you would never lick a tree. You would never lick a frog because you could die. But there's a lot of hallucinogenic reactions you could experience as well. I wonder if he's actually going to lick this. But he could. He might be about to trip. This almost looks like LSD style acid tripping. But look at what he's about to do here. Let's check this out. Never let me die on a regular hill. Oh yeah, he did it. Never let me die on a regular hill. Oh yeah. Listen to that. Boom. Yeah, he's tripping now. You can see exactly when it happened. Look. Lost his shit. Woo, listen to that beat. Boom. Ooh. Ooh, the flow switched up. Listen to that. Yeah, he's talking about the locals, right? He said the local homie, right? These dudes in Peru, yeah, they'll blow smoke on wounds. There's a lot of homeopathic remedies that they do, right? Homie blows smoke on his wounds. Talk about the jungle like it's always in the room. Like somebody from the hood might always talk about where they're from, right? They talk about the jungle like it's always there because it's part of them. It's like somebody from the hood checking his mirrors and watching over his shoulders, right? Like it's always in the room. Oh, he's calling himself a tourist again. What did he say earlier? He said he's got his, what did he say? Like his cargo line pants or something like that in the beginning. Now he's talking about he's a tourist, right? He said, the local homie is doing some homeopathic shit, and talking about the jungle like they're still in it. And he said he was shooting lumens. Lumens, right? That's light you would normally associate with photography out of a canoe into the ruins, right? You're a motherfucking spectator, bro. Ooh, the flow. He's talking about things, food that's specific to that area, right? Now listen to what he said. I think he said tumbo juice. Big soup aid. The flow is so sick. Tumbo juice is specific to Peru. It's like passion fruit, right? You look inside, there's all these black seeds. It's a really sweet, sour juice that people use to make desserts and lemonades and stuff, right? That's what he's talking about. Ranchula Tupe. I don't know what that is. You talk about a biome. Like, goddamn. A biome, I think I don't remember exactly how many biomes there are. There's not many. I'd say between 5 and 10. When you normally think of like the tropical rainforest, right? A desert, a tundra, a grassland, a savanna, right? But you could break these down in other ways too. Let's listen to how he's... See, there's just a double play there because he's talking about rowing, right? Like row your boat the wrong way. But he said into the diode, right? From electrical engineering perspective, a diode is an electrical component, but it makes sure that the flow of the current is only going in one direction. Now, so he's saying row the wrong way, but into the diode. It's kind of, there's a play on words there. Into the diode. Yeah, he's talking about food from the area, right? Like frying the banana, the plantains and shit. Or the palms, fish from the river, sauces. Yeah, when you sit outside, like you ever been to Puerto Rico or somewhere that's more or less tropical, the motherfucking frogs and lizards everywhere. You can be in like a screened environment if you want protection. He looks like he's about to dive in. See, he's for sure getting high or high as fuck, and he's tripping, right? He said it's pimpled with frogs and lizards, but he said when high as hell, they might as well be Mothras in Godzillas, right? That's from the Godzilla franchise. These massive things that he sees because he's tripping, right? Oh, Hellmouth. That's also another reference. That's the jaws of hell, right? Imagine a shark like Jaws, wide open, but they say that it's the gaping mouth of a monster. Is supposedly the entrance to hell, but that's supposedly what it looks like. Now, where's he falling? Right, he's falling into a hole. He's opening the book, right? So something about that book. Yeah, it's the dad letter again, right? I think I found the path to the spirit world. I just need to head down river to investigate. The river boils when it sees me. 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 Electric eels killed two of my best friends, said the local to the gringo, then dove in off the pirogue in a cloud of... The pirogue is it's like a narrow canoe, right? A long narrow canoe. Specific again to Central America. Look, that could be the mouth of the beast, right? You're falling into the devil's mouth. The eye. Mapacha. Ooh, he's talking about something that's really strong. That's something much like almost 10 times stronger than nicotine. You're supposed to soak it or infuse it in water the smoke is actually blown over the stomach or other organs, right? And it's supposed to do something, but they also smoke it. They use it in enemas, but they also do this lickable thing, which might be exactly what he was referencing a minute ago. Because normally you mix these, right? When you're doing ayahuasca, you're mixing two different drugs, and they're both tripping you out in different ways. It sounds like that's what he was doing when he licked the tree that had the impression of the frog or whatnot. Another pirogue. Yeah, Iquitos is it's a Peruvian. It's like a port city, right? But it's also, if you're going to go into the Amazon, that's where you'd probably come and across a lot of tribal people, I would imagine. Ooh, the 6 fingers of Satan. I don't even know how to describe that, but they say like the 6 fingers of Satan. They're different people, right? Or they represent different things. My religious references aren't the best, but I do know that I believe I've seen an image like that, right, where each finger meant something different. Yeah, they only speak in S's, right? It says, you're thinking of like the snake, right? The coral snake, right? They only speak in S's. But I feel like I'm missing something there with the 6 fingers of Satan. I feel like there's a double play there that I'm not getting. Let me know if there's another way I could break that down. You cannot get an amen, right? Ooh. Yo, he's talking now. He's got deep here, right? Listen to what he said. He's probably peaking, right, with his how high he is. He said, "I told my darkest secrets to a pair of fuchsia dolphins." It's already crazy, right? The futures I had squandered. He said they whispered something to me I will bear into my coffin, right? He's taking that shit to the grave. Why? Right? What exactly is it? I'm not even going to try to. What's apparent via Occam is despondency is common. Man, let me know if you guys know specifically what that phrase means. I could really appreciate it. It's not something I'm familiar with. Muddy waters. Ooh. Yeah, see, he found it looks like he found what he was looking for, the symbol, but he's transitioning, right? Supposedly this drug, ayahuasca, gets you to this spiritual world that can change your life. It almost seems like he's experiencing an awakening or a rebirth. Is that the wisdom tree? So what is this book? That's the book that they were so scared of in the beginning. Is it the book of life? Right? Look at it. Look at what he's doing. It's a symbol. It's burying it and it comes out in the world. Is that how, like, the book of the...
Heavy sky weighs like a lid on the spirit, aching for the light. And when embracing the horizon, it pours on us a black day which is sadder than any night.
Dad!
See, so it's making her think of when losing her dad or her dad's in trouble, right? But there's some sort of connection there. But I'm understanding it from a terminology perspective, but the vision for the video, I think it's more about a trip, right? He's tripping on drugs in Pizza Alley in Lima, Peru. This is a trip. It sounds like he's with a shaman and he's just getting high as fuck, but he's experiencing this enlightenment. But I wonder if I'm missing something, mainly towards the end. let me know, comment, or let me know if there's something else maybe I might have missed. This is my, I like to, this is more of a reaction, but it's also an intellectual breakdown of what we're reacting to. But I look forward to hearing, seeing other people's comments and seeing if we got this one right, or at least maybe some parts of it right.